when it comes to creating these safe spaces and these houses, we have such an opportunity to create a future for people that they love being there. That's the point. What's the point of having living somewhere if you don't love it?
Yeah.
Because we want people that are in homes that are going to be comfortable and, match their personality and their vibe, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the only caveat to that would be as long as they like that decor, right?
Yeah,
because
you've got to love it.
You could think that, you might have a 50-year-old man who might not like that.
Yeah.
Or you might have someone who loves cars who their tropical theme might not suit.
And you'd assume that the 50-year-old man isn't hanging out with Mrs. Taylor Swift down the hallway.
Yeah, correct.
So you really do, it does come to who we're pairing people with as well, because it's got to make sense.
Correct, yeah. But I guess that's the whole idea, is matching what does that participant like.
Yep.
How do you do that in a shared environment, though, where you might have people that like different things?
Yeah. Why are we meeting with people once a week? Are we having these discussions with the people that we serve?
Every SIL provider knows the challenges: compliance, rosters, claims. But what if you could work smarter, grow faster, and make a bigger impact? Welcome to SILosophy, where we have real conversations about what it takes to succeed in supported independent living. This podcast is powered by Tania Gomez Consulting and Resolve. Let's get into it.
Great. Welcome to SILosophy. Today I'm joined by Sarah Herriott from the Support Worker Store. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It's always so great to catch up with you and to hear all about what you're doing. For people who might not have come across the Support Worker Store, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Oh, well, it's been an evolution, that's for sure. So the Support Worker Store practically came about because I wanted to make resources for support workers that were accessible and they were cheap and easy to get to. So that's where the journey began. And now I'm creating content and courses and doing all sorts of crazy things that I didn't think I would ever be doing.
Amazing. And what's your experience and background in the disability space?
So I've been in the sector for 16 years. I have to say, yes, I've been in the sector for 16 years and I have worked across one-to-ones to homes to groups to all sorts of crazy stuff in between non-for-profits and agencies.
Amazing. And today I wanted to have a chat to you about this concept of creating a home for SIL participants, not just putting them in a house. And so to begin with, I wanted to ask you about what that really means to you. What does it mean to create a home rather than a house?
Yep. Well, this is when I explain this to support workers, this is how I put it into context. When you go home, what's the first couple of steps that you do? And I'll be honest, I'll be up front. The first things I do when I open the door is the bra goes off, the hoodie on, Ugg boots on, and I'm comfortable. I've got my mum bun up and you're comfortable. So we want to create the same environment for the people that we serve. We want them to be comfortable in their environment. And the best way to do that is to take it back a couple of steps and figure out what makes them comfortable. And each person that we have is an individual, so we've got to figure out what it looks like.
Amazing. I love that concept. I think in disability housing, you kind of have almost two extremes. You've got institutionalized clinical environments to the other extreme of having completely no personality and lacking in every way.
Yep.
And a group setting that kind of is, old and outdated and stale, and none of that really reflects a home.
Yeah, and it's important because homes are meant to be a safe place. So we want to create somewhere that it's safe, because we know that when we have safe places in line for the people that we serve, that their well-being goes with it. So we know that they're more happier, more willing to contribute, more a part of our community.
Yeah.
And by having that safe spot and that place, we create all that. And the general well-being of a person does start from home.
Yeah. It's really that, as you said, that safe space or that grounding place. You go home to recharge and get ready to face the world again. Yeah, turn off. Yeah. What does it look like? What does a supportive home environment look like?
Oh, all right. So for me, a supportive home environment starts from the top. So have we got keys to the house? Because how many conversations I've had, that doesn't even begin with step one, because you should have keys to your own house, yeah? Regardless of disability, it doesn't matter. Your keys, your home, yeah? Soon as you open the door, what is the personality of the house? Like, what is that when you walk in? Is it clinical? Because if it's a hospital setting, I don't want it. If it's got that warm charm, and you know what? If it is, you got 3 people that live together that's got that colour and bright and all that stuff, then the house should reflect that. And it should always reflect the person. If you go to their bedrooms, it should reflect that person, not what somebody says. And it should, every element and every decision of that house should be made as a collective, as a group, because that's the best way possible, that we got people, you know, living together, you know, collaborating together in a best way possible. So when I have this question come up, the best people that I do refer people to, and I do it all the time, I'm like, right, you're going to start your SIL, you know, journey. I tell them to go to Coco Supports. Like, I really do. I'm like, have a look at that house. Have a look at what they're doing and how they display themselves. If you can have a look at that, that's the type of benchmark stuff that we want. We want people to have boutique homes. We don't want people to have the stock standard, because it doesn't reflect the person's personality or where they're at.
Yeah, Coco Supports is a beautiful example of high-end SIL and respite.
That
they
is
do a
the
really great job.
isn't it? Really.
Yeah.
When you look at it, they're like, you nailed it for people that we serve.
Yeah.
And that's why I love, if I have to refer, because I'm not a SIL provider.
Yeah.
If I'm going to refer people, I'll go that way. You have a look at what they're doing, look at the way that they put out there to the world. Do that, because we want people that are in homes that are going to be comfortable and, you know, match their personality and their vibe, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess the only caveat to that would be as long as they like that decor, right?
Yeah,
because
you've got to love it.
You could think that, you know, you might have a 50-year-old man who might not like that.
Yeah,
Or you might have
But
someone
you
who
just-
loves cars who their tropical theme might not
Hope,
suit.
and you'd assume that the 50-year-old man isn't hanging out with Mrs. Taylor Swift down the hallway. Yeah,
That's correct.
Like, yeah. So you really do. It does come to who we're pairing people with as well, because it's got to make sense.
Correct. Yeah. I went to a really beautiful SIL home in Perth when I was there, and they had a different theme for every bedroom, and the participants had chose those themes. And they had 3 houses, and I actually stayed at an empty house. And the house that I stayed at was animals in every room, but it wasn't like childrenish animals. It was like a leopard print, but it was done in such a classy way. Then there was the zebra print room.
Yep.
And it was awesome. And the other house was designers. So there was the Dior room and I don't even know enough designers, but you know, they had a designer for everything. And the carpet to the drapes to the pictures on the wall, the whole thing was done at such a high level that you compare that to some of the other ones that I've seen.
They've got a long way to come.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
this is why we do things like this and have these podcasts, because we talk about it.
Yeah.
Because there's a long way to go. But it's so much room for improvement that we can. Like, there's nothing stopping us from doing that, really.
Yeah.
When you think about it, when it comes to creating these safe spaces and these houses, we have such an opportunity to create a future for people that they love being there. Like, that's the point. What's the point of having, like, living somewhere if you don't love it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also some people go to the extreme where it's not clinical, but they make it so almost display home, right? So perfect.
Yep.
And then it's really hard to maintain.
Do you live in that one? Because
No.
I don't live in a museum. I can tell you that
no,
much.
I've got 4 children. My
I
house
got 3,
is a
I get
disaster.
you. Let's not play this game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I guess that's the whole idea, is matching what does that participant like.
Yep.
How do you do that in a shared environment, though, where you might have people that like different things?
Yep. Why are we meeting with people like once a week? Are we having these discussions with the people that we serve? That's my first question always. All right, you're saying X, Y, and Z. Have you met with them? Oh. The best way to have these discussions is once a week. You have your meeting. You talk about everything. You talk about your decor. You talk about the menu. You talk about what chores need to be done, what activities are coming up, what events. Like, you know, I'm going to have a family over next week, have the living room available, things like that. And then by doing these type of things and having these conversations as a collective, it means that they created the choice and they have control of their environment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the simple things, isn't it, that we often complicate and make it seem like sharing houses is so complex, when really it's just the real simple communication. Yeah, communication and asking people and actually giving them an input into making choices. Yeah, amazing. Now, I want to talk about the key attributes of support workers in, I guess, not even attributes, but what is the role of a support worker to make that home feel like home?
There's this thing going around at the moment. We listen and we don't judge. I reckon that's the best line when it comes to like accommodation or support in general.
Yeah.
We are listening, we're empathetic, and we are just supporting, informing and guiding people to make these type of decisions of what their house should look like and how it feels.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. How can support workers balance, or anyone, any SIL provider or support worker, balance this idea of providing assistance while still promoting independence and respecting, participants' wishes?
Role modeling, the way that we do things. I'll give you an example. I once did an agency shift, right? And back when I lived at mum and dad's, we washed everything by hand. So I didn't know how to use the dishwasher. And these guys were using the dishwasher, yeah? So I'm at agency, I turn up and going, oh crap, I've got to use the dishwasher. So, I'm fumbling around. Then I ask, like, do you know how to use the dishwasher? And then they're putting it together, doing all the dishes and all that stuff, like setting it up in the dishwasher, put the powder in, turned it on, made it look really easy, made me look really stupid in between. But it shows that they are incredibly skilled. We just haven't asked, or, we haven't role modeled, like, how do you do something? Or you haven't asked those questions.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have you gone to a service, right? Whether it be a house or a day service, and you want to get, like, you were going on a tour and a look around. How many times have we actually asked the person we serve to do it? Because they know all the ins and outs. They know all the spots.
Yeah.
It's a question, like, why aren't we asking more?
Yeah, I guess that's right. People always rise to your expectations. It's always expect more.
Well, support workers, we just go on autopilot. We're
Yeah,
like, right, got to get in. I've got to do X, Y, and Z job today.
Yeah.
Go, because I need to match it before the next person comes on, without stepping back and going, oh, hold on, let's put our foot on the brake. We can actually slow down our activity, because by slowing down our activity, role modeling how we're doing it and what we're doing, we can actually work collaboratively together and be independent that way. Like, there's nothing stopping a person from doing their own washing, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very much those teachable moments and building that capacity.
And not rushing it. There's no rush. Just slow our pace down. That's it.
Yeah, that's really hard for me.
I get you. I probably, I understand, but it is that thing that we just have to stop. Does it really need to be done right now in this quick pace in the next 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Maybe not. This is an opportunity right here that we could both do this activity together.
Yeah.
And the independence that person gets, and the opportunity for them to shine and say, you know what, thank you. Like, what more? Like,
yeah, it's true. It's that thing of like, I haven't been a support worker for a long time, but I used to work with children with disability as a teacher's aide and then a teacher. But it's similar in the fact that, or even with my own children's probably a closer example, it's much easier for me just to put my children's shoes on and run out the door than it is to sit there for 20 minutes while they learn to tie their shoelaces. Yep. But if I'm always going to do it, they're never going to learn those skills. And I guess that's, the same idea of, okay, let's just slow it down. And yes, it's going to take longer, but actually over the long term, this is actually how we build those skills.
But it doesn't matter how long it takes, really.
Yeah.
You're there for the whole day.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it really matter? Does it really matter if it takes 2 minutes or 10 minutes?
Yeah.
The thing is, the opportunity to actually do it yourself is more important.
Yeah. And I
it's
guess
not about the timing.
Building that relationship, building that rapport, boosting their self-confidence around, okay, this is how you do it. You give it a go, I do, we do, you do, that whole, pattern of teaching things.
And together, because then that's that, oh, I did it myself moment.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, of course you could do it. What are you talking about? Yeah, you have this in the bag.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really simple but effective tip. What role do relationships between support workers and participants play in making it a home environment?
Very, very, very important, because it can make and break. If you get the wrong people in, it makes and breaks. It is between the relationships and that trust as well, because you're also seeing people that are really vulnerable, times, whether it is personal care, whether it is sticky situations that they want to discuss. There is a bond and a trust that we need to be able to talk about things, because we want people talking. We want them advocating. We want them speaking up. The more that they speak up and talk about what's going on at home, the more comfortable they are, the more secure they are, the more happy more happy they are to be a participant of yours.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. what happens if there is a challenge or a fallout between support worker and participant in the home?
If there's a challenge or a fallout, well, at the end of the day, it's the participant's home. So if they're not suited to that house, and so be it. I'm sorry if that's a bit of tough love, but they need to have these type of choices. Like I said before, when you're maybe if you were to include like a weekly meeting, you can talk about your support workers as a collective, as people that live together, and saying, well, this one did this, this, and this. I don't like this. Can you have a chat with that support worker? You can critique and you can support a support worker to change things, and make it that you don't need to get to that fallout. But the fallout would have to be pretty big if they're saying it's a complete cut.
Yeah.
I think you can critique things, you can fix things, you can monitor and do all those things for a support worker. But if you get to a point where it's a complete fallout, then it's a cut because they live there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Do you think that there's a direct correlation between challenging behaviours or complex behaviours and things inside the home environment?
Yes. Yep. And we all know that challenging behaviours come and stems from communication, number one. So then you've got people that might be living in an environment that not empowered. I think that's, if you're not empowered, what more? Like what does life look like? And if the behaviours at the end of the day is because there's something that I want and I'm not getting it, and I'm the way that I need to get it and I'm not being heard. So people, when they talk about challenging behaviours, they talk about it as a negative thing. I talk about challenging behaviours as a communication. There's a breakdown somewhere and we need to get to the point of what the breakdown is, what the trigger, and then once we figure out the breakdown and the trigger, then we can bring it back. And you can have those conversations and work together. So yes, there are challenging behaviours out there of people that we serve. Can we work together? Absolutely, 110%. But we need to get down to the reason why.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess there's also other environmental factors such as noises or people touching your things they don't like that at all.
I've seen some horrible mismatches.
Yeah.
And I think not the people that we serve's fault. Rush to fill a house.
Yeah.
And I think we have to really, as providers, we need to step back and see what works. Have we put these people together that are going to match? Because they need to live together in each other's pockets for extensive periods of time. And if they can't live together in each other's pockets, then this is not going to work out of anything. It gives you a bad reputation as a provider in the industry. I'd rather get the matching right.
Yeah, I agree. I think the matching is really important. From a SIL provider's perspective, if they're looking at creating their first home and they're looking at, the matching process, the staffing for that home, where do they start with making sure they've got those fundamentals right?
I love this one. All right, cool. All right. So if you've got the people that in play that they're going to live together, why aren't you going to do a shop together? Why aren't they picking the couch? They should be picking the couch, the plates that they eat off, what the blankets are, what the decor. You can do this together, and prior to living together, you can make this a really fun activity. Give them a budget. I've done this before where I gave people a budget of, this is what we're good to do to set up. This is how much we can spend. And you'll be surprised how much research they put into it because they're very passionate about it because it becomes their project, their way of living, By doing this, they start to work together and grow together as well as a team because they've got to work together as a team when you live together, So by putting this together, putting these type of activities together to create that, you'd be surprised what they come up with. And you'd be surprised the couches that they pick and the decor, and that's okay. Even if it's crazy and a little bit outrageous, they picked it. At the end of the day, they picked it. And that's where we go from there. And this is also our leg in too, because then by doing these activities prior to moving into the house, we get to see what type of support workers that will fit well. Because this is your testing ground too, because you can test which ones went out with them for the day and they picked X, Y, and Z. They did this shopping for the house. Really easy. And then also it's also a chance to talk together what are our house rules. Prior to moving in, what is our expectations?
Yeah.
Really makes a big difference. Their colour palette too. Like I did a program once where We had the discussion. We talked about what color we're going to paint this inside of the building. It turned out to be yellow. Not my first color of choice, but at the end of the day, it was a collective that chose it.
Yeah.
And they went through the system. They debated the color. They had the conversation and said, right, Sarah, it's this color. I had to see it through. Like, that was their choice. As a support worker, we come and go. Yeah. They churn through so many support workers in a lifetime. If we are creating a environment that's stable, there's a likelihood that they will be together for a couple of decades. Cool. They need to love where they live.
Yeah. Yeah. So important.
What's the ownership?
Yeah.
Because I picked this. This is my ownership. That couch there, we went to Harvey Norman. We sat on 3 different couches and we all chose as a collective this one. And there's a story. They'll tell you about it when you do like the house, like when you go to the house and you have a conversation. Oh, what happened? Oh, yeah, no, we went to Harvey Norman and I didn't like the red couch, but we negotiated to have the cream couch. All 3 of us voted. It's like, okay. Then it was all driven by choice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. We've kind of covered on a lot of things here. We've talked about creating a home environment. We've talked about building positive relationships, working through challenges. Is there anything else you think we need to talk about when it comes to creating a home and not a house?
Yep. I think it's the way, if I'm talking on a provider, how we're auditing it. How are we managing this? How are we spot checking this? Are we getting community leaders to check in on our work to make sure that we are on par and we're doing what we're saying? Because actions speak louder than words. So I could tell you that I'm the best provider. I provide X, Y, and Z. They've got all this choice. But if I was to turn up any day of the week, is it actually being followed through? That I think is important. And I think that will be the challenge moving forward, how we monitor that.
Yeah, well, they are talking about unannounced visits by the Commission for SIL providers.
I'm all for it, sorry.
Yeah, I
am,
think so
because
too.
you should, if this is what you say you deliver, then it should be there to be seen, and it doesn't matter who walks in and out because it's what is expected and it's delivered.
Yeah, I think that's a great point as well. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sarah. That was awesome. For anyone who wants to reach out to you or learn more about the Support Worker Store, how do they get in touch?
I'm supportworkerstore.com.au. If not, I've got Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and all the social medias in between.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us.
That's all right. Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of SILosophy. If this resonated with you, take a second to subscribe and share it with someone in the SIL space who really needs to hear this. Don't forget to connect with Tania Gomez Consulting on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook for more resources, conversations, and support to help you grow your impact. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep making a difference.